What's going on, guys? So I can't believe it's been 3 years now since I started learning programming, 3D modeling, Unity, Blender. And before that, I really had no experience with it. So I wanted to make this video to show what I've learned over the course of these 3 years. The first 2 years, I made some progress videos. This one, I wanted to share something with new developers and existing developers, and a lot of the stuff you might already know. But this is the top 10 tips that I wish I kind of knew, but I really focused on early on in my development process. I still made good progress, but I think I would have made even more progress if I followed these to a T. So the video here you're seeing is on the left is the original mining video that I did about maybe 6 months into learning, and this is about on the right maybe 2 or 3 months. I mean, 2 or 3 years into learning. So I did make a lot of progress, and I want to share these tips with you now. So number one, organization is critical. This I can't stress enough how important this is. Before I would just jump right into programming, but it's so critical to actually plan out what you want to do first before programming, because it'll save you a lot of time in the long run. You don't have to go back. You'll probably still have to go back and forth and rework some things, but at least you'll get everything down, and you won't have to keep going back and forth and reworking systems because you forgot one or two things in whatever you're trying to do. So what you see here, I used draw.io, and I made this chart for all my classes. It's great for workflows, and I use that often. This is an example here of when I made my my animal stats and the workflows of what flows into each. And I won't go into detail because I made those in separate weekly videos, which you guys could check out. But this helps so much organize before I start programming of what each of the variables will be and how many factors will go into each of the health and age and all these variables of the animals. I also use Google Sheets because it's so helpful in the actual calculations. And this is an example here of how many stat values each action will result in order to determine, with each day, if the player took a certain action, how long would it take him to reach a certain bond level with the animal. And this is important when I'm trying to balance out the game and make it, consistently fun, not too difficult and not too hard. Number two, break tasks into much smaller tasks. So this here is one of the first videos I did, maybe 6 months in, and the inventory system was just killed me. I was stressing for like 2 weeks because I didn't break it out. I was like, oh, let me just do the inventory system this week. But there's so many other smaller parts that are involved in it that you really, if you're struggling, you break down whatever you're doing into even smaller parts. So if you can't even, drag the inventory over, or you can't get the items to show up. So, what do I gotta do first? I gotta make the actual grid icon. So let me make the background. So in the bottom right, you could see the inventory system that I did, which is just the basic inventory system. And then on the top is where I am now with all these different factors. And that's all these smaller tasks add up to this. So if you're struggling, break whatever you're doing up into even like the easiest task you could think of, and it'll also help increase motivation and keep you going rather than frustration and quit. This is important. Take breaks. So I got burned out doing weekly videos after about 2 years. So taking breaks was critical for me. I took a 3-month break, played some Diablo, took my mind off of it because it wasn't becoming fun anymore. It was becoming like super painful and frustrating. I wasn't making much progress. But right after I took that break, I was able to make a whole complete quest system and think much more clearly. And I also had time to plan ahead, which made the actual programming much easier. So I made the quest objectives, I made the quest log, I made the event system, and I actually finally clicked what event systems actually were. So I used those to trigger certain events to show the objectives were complete, and then you can go over to the NPC and accept new quests, and they'll go into the quest log and then complete the quest of the NPC for rewards. So take breaks. It'll help you in the long run for sure. It's a marathon. Keep dev sessions short. So after about 1 or 2 hours of coding or doing whatever I'm doing, you could feel like a mental cloud. And that is a sure sign that it's going to be unproductive for the next whatever amount of minutes or hours you're going to be working. So once you have that, just take a 5-10 minute break and then come back and you'll be refreshed and you'll be ready to go again. This works for me. I mean, one part of me is like, oh, I want to get this done. I want to finish it up. I want to be like, get this done as quickly as possible. But the other part of me is like, I'm mentally fatigued and I spent an hour and I still can't figure out where this null reference exception is coming from. And even it's crazy how the easiest things become that clear when you just take a break, or whatever it may be. Tip number 5. This is very important. Chicken parm pizza right there. So I have different things that I like. Chicken parm, pizza, games, World of Warcraft. So this is critical because once I'm done with the task, I know there's going to be a reward after it. So I can go for exercise or do something that I enjoy in order to. This is Diablo 2 here, and I know that it keeps the motivation and keeps me going, and helps avoid burnout as well. Number 6, make research an integral part of the process. So this is an example of my bow combat system I just did, and I really followed my process very well. I researched Horizon Zero Dawn and Breath of the Wild, other games with bow combat, and you really have to break it down step by step. So for here, I wanted to see, I want to just shoot a bow and arrow, but there's so many steps that go into it. You got to instantiate the bow, you got to instantiate the arrow, you got to actually pull back with the animation, and then the other animation is let go, and then it has to be a certain amount of force, but depending on how the bow's drawn back. So planning it out and doing the research to see like what makes the game so effective that are sometimes subtle differences, like a little crosshair there and a slow rotation when the player has equipped the bow. All these little things that factor into it that really make it a good end goal there. Tip number 7, make your to-do list dynamic. So this is another important thing. It helps you from getting siloed into, oh, I have to do programming today, I have to do modeling today. Whatever you feel like most doing, make your to-do list as dynamic as possible. Where, oh, I want to work on modeling one day, I want to work on, and you're still getting the ultimate thing done. There might be 10 steps, but you might want to work on step 7 first, and that might go into your workflow if it's dynamic enough. So here I wanted to make wild animals, make them run around, let the player feed them, let them follow you when they're you have a certain bond. But that's all multiple different steps. So I broke it all down in steps, and then the end result here is everything from the modeling to animation of the rabbit to the actual programming and interaction with the animal in the game. But I didn't do these all in order. I did modeling one day because I was interested in it, and then programming another. So try to do that. This is important too. Tip number 8: reuse scripts where possible. So I do this a lot with my manager type scripts, where I have my inventory manager, my equipment manager, my quest manager, and I name them all the same. And I use a lot of the singletons, which is the same code, so I could reference those from. I know those are tailored to their specific tasks, and it's important to reuse code or classes, so you don't have like 1,000 other scripts to maintain. It's just kind of like 1 or 2, and if you have to tweak something, you could just do a Control F because a lot of the scripts would be the same. So it actually helps as well, making it much more simple to program because where's my equipment coming from? Oh, that's my equipment manager. It just makes sense, the logic of it. And Everything with manager at the end is obviously something to manage some kind of system. Here you could see my equipment manager along with my inventory manager, and it allows you to make complex systems or simple systems into one. And it looks like a complex system, but it actually is much more organized. Number 9, use consistent and clear naming conventions. Don't try to be tricky. You want to make something as simple as possible so you know 2 years down the road what you're looking at, and you're not going to spend hours, oh, what do I do here? So here you have my event manager, NPC kill, item crafted, inventory change, new hour. These are all events that you know based on the method names and the variable names what they're actually for. Here we have necklace, left mace, left dagger, right shield, right sword. So anyone who's looking at the code could tell what those transforms are. Same thing with the textures. I use like UI underscore, and you got to use whatever works for you. I just try to make it as simple as possible because once your game starts to grow, you're gonna have a lot more. So getting the naming conventions down early for everything from assets to scripts to variables to classes is critical. So keep that in mind. Number 10, this is, if not the most important one, aside from organization, compare yourself to yourself. So I did this. I'm sure many of you have done this. You look at AAA games and developers who have been doing this for years, and it's like, oh my God, I'm garbage at this, and these people are amazing. But they've been practicing, and they have departments that do this. You might have like a whole department for music, whole department for animation, whole department for. So if you're an indie developer, you got to take one step at a time and compare yourself to your. This is why I make these videos, because I wanted to compare my progress, bottom right, to where I am. So the bottom right was like about 6 months into it, and then the top is the maybe 2 years down the road. So that's the most important thing because it really helps keep motivation. And you might have made tons of progress, but you compare your work to like someone who's been doing it forever, and you're like, oh, this is I'm never going to get there. But you will. You just have to stay consistent and have the have something to compare yourself to, and don't compare yourself to others. You can compare yourself to or use research to find out what works in other games and kind of tailor that into your game, but try not to compare yourself like, oh, I'm not as good as them, I'm gonna have to quit, because that gets discouraging very fast. And especially if, for the most part, people have left like such positive comments on my videos, but there's people who have written when I started, oh, this is trash, this is garbage, but they don't know actually how much work you put into it. So in a way, find the positive community, and just thank you guys for everyone who has commented on my videos, and it's really helped me keep motivation to keep going. And I'm looking forward to the next year of programming and coding and modeling and animations and everything like that. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and hope this helps someone. Thanks for watching.